The Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions will please come to order. This morning we have a hearing about the recent National Labor Relations Board decision that threatens to steal the American dream from owners of 780,000 franchise businesses and millions of contractors. We'll also discuss the legislation I've introduced to undo this decision and restore the law the way it was before the NLRB decision. Senator Murray and I will each have an opening statement. We'll introduce our panel of witnesses. We thank each of you for coming. And after the witness testimony, each senator will have 5 minutes of questions. Last week I met a man named Aslam Khan. He's an immigrant from Pakistan who started out as a dishwasher at Church's Chicken and who today has become a very successful owner of Church's Chicken franchises. He talked about achieving the American dream. He said it was possible because of our nation's, quote, free enterprise entrepreneurial spirit, unquote. But on August 27, the NLRB released a decision that threatens to steal that American dream from owners of the nation's 780,000 franchise businesses and millions of contractors. It threatens to destroy that free enterprise entrepreneurial spirit. The Labor Board's new joint employer standard will make big businesses bigger and make the middle class smaller by discouraging larger companies from franchising and contracting work to small businesses. It's the biggest attack on the opportunity for small businessmen and women in this country to make their way up the economic ladder that we've seen in a long, long time. And I'm committed to fighting it with legislation that already has 45 co-sponsors in the Senate and a total of 60 co-sponsors in the House, including 3 Democrats. For 3 decades, federal labor policies have held that 2 separate employees are joint employers if both have direct and immediate control over employment terms and working conditions. That means 2 employers who are both responsible for tasks like hiring and firing, work hours, issuing directions, determining compensation, and handling day-to-day record keeping. Under the new joint employer standard adopted in August in Browning Ferris Industries, a 3-2 NLRB majority said that merely indirect control or even unexercised potential to control working conditions could make a franchisee and a franchisor joint employers. This means that for all these franchisees and contractors who've worked so hard to build their businesses and their communities, hire the right people, sometimes spend 12 hours or more a day serving customers, meeting a payroll, dealing with government regulations, paying taxes, trying to make a profit, they'll no longer be considered their workers' sole employer. Rather, they're just one of the workers' employers. And for the businesses that have franchised their brand or use subcontractors to haul their waste or clean their offices and are now considered one of the employers of these companies' workers, there'll be a huge incentive to retake control of those franchises and retake control of those contracted tasks, because if you're going to have all the liability of being the boss, you might be much better off being the boss. That means costs go up, less ability to invest capital. As joint employers, business owners will be forced to engage in collective bargaining and share liability for labor law violations. The change also harms employees. Millions of employees will lose the ability to negotiate things like pay hours and leave time with their direct supervisor. Those decisions will now be made between the larger employee and the union. And as one employee put it in an interview with a Denver news channel, I'd be just another number to a corporation. I'm a person to my employer now. Franchising will be particularly impacted by this decision. There's 780,000 franchise establishments across the country. They create nearly 9 million jobs. Last week I met with a Chattanooga, Tennessee couple who started their own franchisee location of 2 men and a truck, a moving company. With hard work and commitment, they've been able to grow their first franchise into 6 locations. They'd like to continue to grow, but this new NLRB decision is causing them to put their plans on hold. 2 men and a truck is a good example of how franchising allows entry into business ownership in the middle class. It was started in Michigan by a mom with 2 sons who she was ready to put to work. Her first franchisee was her daughter. It's now grown to 220 franchisees, 8,000 jobs. 38% of their franchisees began by working on a truck. Successfully franchising a franchise business is one of the most important ways to climb the ladder of success. Women own or co-own nearly half of all franchise businesses. Minorities own about 20%. Why would we want to cut off this business model? The Protecting Local Business Opportunity Act that I have introduced along with 45 co-sponsors would roll back the NLRB ruling and reaffirm that an employer must exercise actual, direct, and immediate control over essential terms and conditions of employment. This is the common sense standard that's been applied for decades. We have 45 co-sponsors of our bill. I hope we'll add more. I hope that will include some Democratic members of the Senate. This is an issue that is important. I believe it's time for Congress to act as soon as possible to stop a destructive policy that damages middle-class growth, the middle-class growth that has made this nation what it is today. I hope my colleagues on both sides of the aisle will agree. Senator Murray.